Good evening and welcome back. I'm just catching up with the Brendan Rodgers interview that went out this afternoon. There are a few people online. Let's say evening to everyone first before we get into this evening's video. Kaiser's in the house. Kaiser, you want to go live actually? Give me 2 seconds. I don't want that. How do I do it? I don't want layout. Invite. There we go. Kaiser, are you about or are you not? And you can jump on. Because I've just sent you a link. Just do this. Saves me babbling on for an hour. Although I know what I'm talking about. There we go. Right, if you're about, jump on the link. If not, it's cool. Stuart Ramsey's in the house. Paul Bear's in the house. San Francisco's in the house. Vincent O'Brien's in the house. Graham Hardy, Kaiser Pam is in the house from the US of A. Right, Pam, is that right? And Stuart Ramsey and Patrick Toner, Helen in the house. Tam Mack. There's loads of people back in. Look who it is. Look who it is. You know my name. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Where is it? Right, here we go. And hide user from Jam. And he's gone. Just like that. Right, no worries. As soon as you're ready, jump on, Kaiser. Who do you think will replace Rio? I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So, first of all, I want to talk about just a story I was looking at, actually, but I don't think it's really worth it. So, right, the players that I think could replace Rio Hatate. Let's just get straight into it. When you look at it, Paulo Bernardo obviously played at the weekend. Give me your thoughts on Paulo Bernardo in the comments. And it was interesting is that I listened to Brendan Rodgers' interview just before I came on the live there, and William Martin is back. Yeah, I know. I was listening to Brendan Rodgers' interview and he was asked about Ohm. Now, it was interesting that Ohm's actually been out injured. So after he got sent off in the Champions League game, because remember, he hasn't played since he got sent off in that first Champions League game. Odin has been injured. It was interesting that Brendan Rodgers said that's him back from his injury and he's training again. And it was a weird one. It was weird. I wonder how he got injured. Anyway, the big news is obviously out the next 9 games, we've got 6 at home. Do you think that that'll benefit us being at home finally? Because let's face it, we've went the first part of this season and we've had quite an away run when it comes to games. But out of the next 9 games, we've got 6 of them at home, which is good. I don't think it will give us a little bit of a boost back at home, but sometimes it can be a bit of a teams will sit back and sometimes the fans can get on top of them. Bernardo for me is highly rated. Benfica, what's the point of the loan? James, I'm just going to come to that because Brendan Rodgers today was asked about players like Odin, about Paulo Bernardo, and being prospect players. And you're thinking a £6 million player from Benfica, a prospect player. Surely we're not going to buy him for £6 million if he's just a prospect player. But then again, Jota was kind of a prospect player at Benfica. When you look at what Brendan Rodgers said, he was asked about, do you think that these players have potential? You've brought through a lot of guys in your career, a lot of young players. Do you think that these guys have got potential or will they make it to the big time, basically? And he said, look, it's always just potential. It was interesting. So I don't think Brendan Rodgers came across as utterly convinced by, especially Odin, and maybe even to a certain extent, Paulo Bernardo. It's just a feeling I've got. He didn't come across overly positive. All he said about both players, he said that they're both still just prospect players. He said he sees enough in training to say that they want to improve as players. At the end back to the old question. It goes back to the question of we put players out on loan, we put our young players out on loan, to get game time. But then we're bringing in players that are prospect players. Wouldn't be better? It's this old thing that I can't get past with Celtic just now. It's we're bringing in players who are prospect players when we have our own prospect players in the club that just split them up again. Is not going to cost us a lot of money to sort of bring it into the first team. But instead, we bring in prospect players from other clubs. It's just mind boggling. Anyway, let's get back to players that I think could. Obviously, Odin and Ohm are two players that could potentially replace Rio Hatate. Another one is Tomoki Iwata. Tomoki Iwata hasn't seen a lot of game time this season. He plays in that sort of role that Scott Brown played in. He plays that holding midfield role, which would allow Callum to go further forward. Iwata's full of confidence. Before he came to Celtic, he was the Japanese Player of the Year. So on paper, Iwata is the first choice, surely, but it comes down to what the manager sees in training. And he obviously sees something in the likes of Paulo Bernardo that got him his shout first. And then he was asked about David Turnbull. I mean, David Turnbull's the fourth choice. So it's David Turnbull runs out his contract at the end of this season. He's 24-year-old. He has quality in midfield. We're not going to do that, but would David Turnbull turn into a better player playing beside Matt O'Reilly and Callum McGregor? And then there's another question that needs to be asked on this live: is if, God forbid, Celtic have two more injuries in the next couple of weeks, how does that leave us for the next? Say we get two injuries to two players, Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly. Where do the goals come from? Where do the goals come from at Celtic right now? Because basically, Matt O'Reilly's been completely just. He's back. Who's back? So he is. He's got more accounts than anybody. Oh, my name is deleted. Have you just block him? Ah, he's not back. Wait a minute. Just go through the messages. No, just leave him. Just leave him. Just block him. Anyway, let's get back to it. So you've got Rio Hatate out. Is David Turnbull the man that could come along and play better than Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly? Could he perform better? Or, like many people say, he slows the game down? Tell me what you think. Maybe we should do a poll. I should maybe do a poll on this one. Let's see if we could do a poll. I need to go on this thing. So, nah, no more time for that. Turnbull. He's been a poor squad manager. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. A poor squad manager. Poor squad manager. I'm just catching up with some of the comments just to make sure. I put him on a timeout for 24 hours. Perfect, Paul. That's cool. Locked in. If Scales can rebound into a star player, then definitely possible for Turnbull. That's an interesting one from Reese. But we have other options, and that is worth it. With the fact that Turnbull is out of contract at the end of this season, is it time to put that one to bed and let Tomoki Iwata come in and show his worth? Because we've got a player that was the best player in Japan before he came to Celtic. Is it time to let him shine? That's what I'm asking tonight. Turnbull's too slow. People are saying Turnbull's too slow. Iwata's getting a shout. Big Odin has been injured, which is completely bizarre because he didn't play after he got sent off in the Champions League. So we've got Tomoki Iwata, David Turnbull, you have no chance. Odin, who is just back. We've not seen enough of Odin, although the naivety of the player in the Champions League really cost us. It cost us a lot. It cost us, if you ask me, the two sending off cost us that game. We would have been sitting in a far better position if we'd managed to take something out of that game. And going by the first 30 minutes of the the game, the first Champions League game, we should have really got something. For me, Kevin Kismet says, for me, I would move Skills and push Taylor in midfield. Is Taylor the option? Is this Taylor that kind of player? Um, do you really think that he could play alongside Callum McGregor and create more? That's a hard one. He's not. Can he take on enough players? Is he creative enough in midfield to dominate? I mean, I know that he's good at coming in and making a nuisance for himself, and it makes him hard to track for opposition teams. When you've got someone like that in the team, playing like that, but it's I don't think that is the answer. I think we need a player that plays in that position who know. And let's face it, Tomoki Iwata is a far bigger build than Greg Taylor. Far bigger build. We need somebody that can boss midfield, because I feel that we've been a bit light recently, and sometimes we're getting bossed off the ball. Many times that Kyogo gets bossed off the ball is unreal. Some of our wingers even get bossed off the ball. Holy Iwata deserves his chance. I think he does. Brendan will need to look at the squad in the next transfer window, as the Asian Cup is coming up, and definitely need a striker at least. We need quality in midfield, says John. I'm going to start putting some of the comments up. Taylor's fine what he says, Graham Harley. Yeah, I completely agree with that. A lot of people have been saying that we still need a left back. I believe that if we go to a three at the back, I mean, we went to last midweek. If we go to a three at the back, we don't really need Taylor in that position. We can put a midfield player and totally flood the midfield. Be a better use of it. So, Turnbull doesn't make Taylor passes. No, he doesn't. That's one reason I think he should be forgotten about. Plus the fact that he's out of contract at the end of the season. If he was going to sign a new contract, surely Tagore would have signed it before now. I mean, we're only a couple of months away from. Well, let's face it, he could start talking to anyone now. He could sign a pre-contract agreement with anybody on the 1st of January. So you're not telling me that Turnbull's agent is not looking down south at possibilities for him as a player. Um, surely it's going on. Has to be going on. Has to be going on. And Turnbull doesn't create enough talent passes, says Guitar Man. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. Paulo Bernardo's been speaking to the media at the press today. He says, having placed most of last week's Champions League tie against Atletico Madrid following Rio Hatate's injury, Paulo Bernardo was his first real start at the weekend. It didn't last the whole game. The match ended a disappointing draw. The Portuguese midfielder was pleased he made the starting 11 as he looks to push on. He also spoke about the fact that he spoke to Jota before he came to the club. Speaking ahead, you've got to remember as well, he's only 21. You know, Paulo Bernardo's only 21. And it goes back to this thing again. We'll talk about it again. It's players that have come in and that are prospects. The manager spoke about it today. He said that when he was speaking about Odin and Paulo, they're just prospects. They're just prospects. Even at this young age, they are just prospect players, which I find is unbelievable. And it's more unbelievable because I think that we should be giving our own youth players a chance. I think that we get more satisfaction. Look at the way that we watched Jamesy Forrest come through the team as a youngster coming into the main team. Look at the way that we've followed Callum McGregor's career, and we're all right behind Callum McGregor coming through the youth system and being in the mainstay of the Celtic team. No one on the periphery of the team just now that is going to follow that or succeed it or follow that path in the next season or two anyway. There is absolutely no one in the squad just now that you could see that's going to make that jump up. You know, but in the meantime, we bring in prospect players from abroad. Um, we need, Kaiser says, let's get Kaiser, how's it coming? We get striker, goalkeeper defo in January. Hopefully for a 3-5-2 option for more players to get in midfield, like Iwata, Bernardo, and Olm, as well as Tillo. Well, Marco Tillo. There's the big. That's the biggest. That's $1 million question. Marco Tillo is going to go down in history as one of those questions Celtic quizzes. Is like what player made was the highest transfer fee, I think, from Australia in 1.5 million and never played for Celtic. Marco Dio, people won't remember that. We've all known ever since. I mean, go back to Paulo Bernardo, the fact that he is only 21. Paulo said, I'm feeling really good and confident. I like the way the coach thinks about the team and how we should play the game. I feel comfortable with these tactics. That was an interesting one from Paulo. I have a feel that I can make an impact because we are professional players. It's our job to do that. It's a little bit different from Portugal, but I really like being here at Celtic. They've supported me, so I'm really comfortable here, says Paulo Bernardo. I think the football is more intense, said Paulo Bernardo. The game never stops. Portugal will lose a bit of the game. Players just go on the floor and the referee stops the game. It's a little bit boring compared to here, says Paulo. Imagine players just drop into the field just to buy a bit of game time. In Scotland, we've got referees that help other teams do that. Players are welcomed. The players have welcomed me really well, says Paulo Bernardo. I'm very comfortable because of my teammates and the staff who have supported me well. I like to play more. I hope that we get our chances in Europe and we win the championship and the cup. So Paulo Bernardo wants to win the league and he wants to win the Scottish Cup. The Portuguese midfield player who is on a season-long loan from Benfica admitted that Jota spoke to him in glowing terms about Celtic and Scotland. I'm working with my hard to make an impact. Jota did that, and I want to make the same impact and make my own history here, says Paulo Bernardo. Hopefully, it will be good, just like him. He told me the city was good. I think it is too. He told me about Celtic, about being at the club. It's a really good club. I like what we used to do at Benfica. He told me it's not too different. The most different thing about the Scottish game is the weather. It's the weather. And that's it. That is it. Bernardo does need game time. He does need Chilo's Mo doesn't even know what it's, that one's going up. Um, Bernardo does need game time, but the fact he is only 21 and we're expecting him to come in and work miracles. We know that he's highly thought of in the Portuguese under 21 team. But it's another prospect player, and it's hard to get really motivated about these prospect players when we knew at the beginning of the season that we needed someone with a bit of experience just to walk into the team and just to make us a little bit better. Now, as it stands, I mean, the games that we've got coming up, out of the next 9, we do have 6 at home, which is good. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is in a rush to play Tilo. I don't think he is either. Um, he has said that he's not going to rush him. He said that Marco, a few weeks ago, he was talking about Marco, and he said that Marco says he's finding it hard to adjust to the pace of the game in Scotland. And I think coming from down under, he maybe is finding it a bit harder, so he's not going to rush him. Celtic, you'll never walk alone, says Forrest O. Turnbull. Have all had their days at Celtic. Has O had his chance at Celtic? Has he had enough time on the pitch? Has O done enough to show that he's a striker of quality that we're used to having at Celtic? I mean, he's obviously had something about him that made Celtic go and pay money for him. Um, but but when you look at the strikers that we've had over the last 8 years, say, when we look at the one striker that we got from Hibs, who compared to the rest of the strikers that we've had recently was pretty much a goal scoring machine. We do need another player that is a bit more like a Lee Griffiths. Lee Griffiths. Kyogo's nothing like a Lee Griffiths. Kyogo's like I'm going to say a poor man's king of kings. The way that he moves around the box and everything, he can't could be a bit. It's too late for Kyogo to get to the dizzy heights of Henrik Larsson. That will never happen. Let's be brutally honest. Kyogo is a good player, but he's never going to reach the dizzy heights of what Henrik Larsson did as a player. Now, that's no disrespect to Kyogo; he's a fantastic player. But when we look at the strikers that Celtic have had over the years, we've kind of been let down by the recruitment team in the past couple of years, I think. The fact that we've not really brought anyone of any substance in after Kyogo. We really need someone that can come up I'd love to see. I don't even think O is that good a player to play alongside Keogh. I don't think that they communicate well on the pitch, and I don't think they have a togetherness. Just think that they're two different players and two different mind paths. I don't know. Maybe you could work on it in training, but I can't see it. 9 signings, maybe the two first team quality, not good enough. And you're right there, Lucky. We brought in 9 signings in the summer, and it's probably not the time to talk about it. I mean, we've got another transfer window just round the corner, but we brought in 9 signings. We did not need 9 players brought into the team. We've now got a first team that is absolutely huge. It's something like 32 players in the team, in the first team. So it cannot go on. I mean, I don't even think Martin O'Neill had 32 players in his first team, and he had a lot of young Scottish players in his team. He's had a lot of young Scottish players in his team at that time, so to make up the numbers. So when you think of that, the quality that we've brought in is all just players that we're hoping might turn good enough. Anyway, O's only a pup. He needs to learn his craft. But that's fine saying that, Kaiser, that he's only a pup. But we've got a young Johnny Kenny that's went out to Ireland, back to Ireland alone, and he's about the same age as him. Um, so you've got to give. You can't. It's okay bringing other players in, but what is the point in bringing other players in when we're putting our own young players out on loan? It's like, should he not be going out on loan then? Should Celtic maybe not buy him in and then send him out on loan to try and get game time and prove him as a player? If it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough for the gander, as they say. O's a big lump. He tries hard, but he just isn't good enough. Klinsmann rates O highly. It does, and it's kind of weird because he's never had enough game time at Celtic. So I mean, Klinsmann is a man that knows a thing or two about football. Having played, well, when he played for Spurs, drop that there. Awata isn't a prospect. That is true. Awata isn't a prospect. He should be given his chance, says Chilpel. That's probably one of the best comments I have yet. Awata isn't a prospect. All the players that we've mentioned so far, well, in saying that, a very own Scottish player isn't a prospect player either. But when you look at the players that have came in, obviously you've got Big Odin, um, who was highly rated in his homeland, but Tomoki Awata out the 4, got David Turnbull. He's not a prospect player either, and he is 24-year-old. So that's not when you're at 24, you're no longer a prospect player. You've either got the quality to make it the big time at Celtic, or you don't. Odin, came from the Norwegian player, came in. He was highly rated in his homeland, but again, he's only 20-year-old. He's only 20-year-old, so he's in that prospect player side. And then when you bring in Awata, he's a little bit older and he's not. So, we're buying from certain countries prospects to sell to the media. Says something today. Yeah, it's pretty much what we're doing. It is pretty much what we're doing. I think it is affecting the team. And quality wise, quantity, we've got a fantastic quantity, but I think we're now at the stage where the quantity is affecting the quality of the team. And I think Hibs was always a hard away game to go to. Yeah, it's always been a hard away game, has been for years. But I think the team could have done a lot better. And when you look at it, we're having to bring James Forrest on, and he got the best shot of the game, and his shot come off the crossbar. Brendan mentioned all the injured players' status today. It's set for Daniel Arzan. I mean, Tillo. I must have given up, man. We've all been talking about that smell of glove and talking about Marco Tillo. He's that far out the picture that I think he is now training with the B team. I think he's now with the B team, and I think he might have actually had a couple of games for the B team. Don't quote me on it, but I think he's now been put down to the B team just to try and get his freshness up. It says all about the young lad. We need the first team ready striker, says Guitar Man. Yes, we do that. Tamak says, am I bad for having a bag of cans on a Monday night? Unless he says, Bads has never hit my living room. That's enough to drive anyone to drink. It's enough to drive anyone to drink. Smell the glove. It says, give a Wata a proper chance. Number 6, Cal further forward with Matt O'Reilly. Yep, I think that would be fantastic. I think that's Callum McGregor plays better when he's further forward, but the way that we've had him play the last couple of seasons, he's played more of that Scott Brown role. Is that to try and make sure that it prolongs his career? The same way that Brendan Rodgers did with Scott Brown the first time around. You've got to remember a lot of we're just going over old news. But yeah, that's interesting. I think that'd be an interesting one. Brendan Rodgers has never won at Easter Road. Thanks for reminding us, Paul. We did know that beforehand. We don't really need to talk about this. Move on. Move on. We should sign 5 experienced pros and maybe 3 or 4 prospects. When and where are we going to fit them into the team? We need to have, if that was the case, we need to have a complete sell-off of the squad. We're currently sitting lucky with 32 players in the first team. That's far too many players, and far too many prospect players. We have to make a decision within a season or 2 of these players come in if they're going to be good enough, and then sell them on. We cannot keep the momentum going. We cannot keep on bringing in players. We only need 1 or 2 players brought in that is experienced. We need to bring in 1 or 2 experienced players. We don't need to bring in 3 or 4 prospects. We don't need any more prospects at Celtic. We only need a couple of players that have got experience. What is Dyer doing at Tottenham? Loan Tilly out to St Johnstone and see what he can do. That's an interesting one, but I think that they've put him because of his age. I think they've just put him down into the B team. Um, what other chance? Get another striker in. Yep. It seems to be that a lot of people don't think that O has what it takes to be a top quality striker at Celtic. Unfortunately, anything good happens to Kyogo and we're struggling up front. Sam, it's not only Kyogo. If anything happens to Matt O'Reilly, and Kyogo, now remember a few when during well, two seasons ago now, this time of the year we were getting hamstring injuries left, right, and centre. God forbid that anything like that happens to those 2 players, because I tell you one thing, if it does, that team that's sitting in second is going to fancy their chances for us dropping more points. Big Red says, don't understand why we have a reserve league. Keep banging on about money. There is the more money in the game now than ever. The SPFL and SFA need to get a sponsor. Yeah, and get up and running. Yep, we need a reserve league. Yep, because putting our players down um, to lower leagues is just not cutting it for me. Chilwell says that Tillo won't play until after the split. I think you'll be lucky to see Tillo this season. This season. Signing pros and prospects. It's not the way of the board. Yeah, it's not. Welcome to the channel, Paul. Yeah, most of the players that came in were Ange picks. I probably think he had something to do with it. Wouldn't waste money on Scottish players. Martin says, wouldn't waste any money on Scottish players and they don't get a chance or something goes wrong. It's to blame. Shocking bias. Yes, and I totally agree with you there, Martin. But is there any Scottish players that are out there that are good enough to come into Celtic? Because let's face it, if we do lose Turnbull, we're then a Scottish player down. Then again, we should be bringing players through our youth system that can make up the numbers, especially for the likes of Champions League games and that. Then bringing in a young player to sit on the bench in the Champions League will give him more of an experience of first team football than he will ever get playing any games at Lithgow Rose. Seeing the players and how they perform pitchside, seeing how the manager talks to the players, seeing how the backroom staff talks to the players, that brings a player on a lot more than playing Lithgow Rose on a Tuesday night or whatever night it is. So I'm totally with you with that. I wouldn't buy any Scottish players in, but I would definitely bring in Scottish players through the game the way it says. Apparently, Theo isn't dealing with pace of a game. Yeah, Graham, I said that he was having a bit of struggle. Now, if he's struggling just with the pace in training, is it right that we keep a hold of? If he's struggling with the pace in training, maybe that's why he's been put down to the B team. Would anyone consider Shankland? Now there's a comment. Yeah, he'd maybe work in Scotland, but I'm not too sure about that one. I'm not too sure. No, he's Scottish is good enough. He's not. He's yep. I prefer Graham Hardy. He's a cracker of a comment that I'm not going to. Sam Max, let's get you up because you've not been on the channel today. I was downbeat about the draw on Saturday and never got over it. I think we really got around. We never got around the gears. Yep. Yeah, yeah. The way that that victory got, that what got the victory. I mean, to get the penalty, and then I've just put a post up on the community tab, and it zooms in on the picture of the penalty incident. Now, the fact that VAR looked at the pulling of the shirt, but never looked at the fact that the two players were actually beside each other, and the Rangers player then impeded the Hearts player, which made the pull on the shirt look even worse than what it was. Anyway, it was a pull on the shirt. Should he have been doing it, and was he giving them an advantage by pulling the shirt? That has to be asked as well. There was definitely lodged cheating going on at some form. Anyway, we need Scottish players for the Champions League numbers. Yes, Dylan, that's exactly what I've said. But I think that the Scottish numbers, the Scottish contingent should be coming through from our B team. Anything. Um, we're not going to go out and buy any Scottish players that are good enough to walk right into the first team. So I think that we should bring in Scottish players through our own youth system. Bernaby's robbing of a wage since his arrival. Get him out, says Reece. Is Bernaby robbing us a wage, or is Greg Taylor just showing that he's better than him? He was brought in for some good money. We spent some good money on Bernaby Reece, so um, he's obviously doing something wrong in training for the fact that Greg Taylor is seen as a better choice, for him, which is really something else when you think about it. And Neil Lennon addresses a potential. Oh, here we go. Should we talk about Neil Lennon? I mean, he did. He was great as a player and a manager, but he is looking to get back into management. So is Scott Brown. Scott Brown was obviously talking about the fact that he was at the gym today. Well, no, he went out for a 7 kilometre run. That's how he could manage. Neil Lennon didn't outright quote and then talking about systems about that. Nonsense story. So many nonsense stories going about it now. People are just trying to make up. It's going to be even worse when we've got an international break. There's one player that has been robbing us of a wage is McCarthy to the tune of 25 grand a week. It is unbelievable that we did not pay off McCarthy. Well, it's my understanding that Celtic tried to pay off McCarthy, but McCarthy didn't want the payoff. He wants to collect his wage in full. Celtic would have to pay the full contract off for him to move, which is just unbelievable. And why we went for McCarthy at the age that we did, I mean, it's just one of the craziest things that's happened over the last couple of years. When we look back, is it time to look back over the Ange years and say, look at the good things? It's all good winning the double in his first year and then winning the treble. Hats off to Postecoglou for doing that. But how did he leave the squad? And it's not until really years later that you look at the sort of the bigger picture of the squad. I mean, Postecoglou was pretty much stuck to his starting 11 every week. We did have a bit of a stronger bench, but how has he really the fact that we had to bring in 9 players that are potentials this transfer window? How did Ange Postecoglou leave the squad? Do you think that Ange Postecoglou did enough by young players in the squad? And has Brendan Rodgers done enough by the young players in the squad this season so far? I wouldn't mind 5 grand a week. Yeah, I'd give me 5 grand a week any day. Kaiser's left a nice little message about Shankland. I won't repeat that. Turnbull starts a kick the ball over in the sky. Yep. When you look at Turnbull's stats, I mean, Turnbull's good. Turnbull is good at scoring some goals. I think his goal from long range ratio is probably one of the best. One of the best. Joseph is in the house. I've just seen your message. Joseph, do you think Lennon or Brown will be our next manager? Not a chance will Lennon ever manage Celtic again. I think if Neil Lennon was to get a sniff of coming back at Celtic, there would be mass outcry. Mass outcry. I'm sorry. People that go to the game, it's different being fans that sit and watch the game on the television, but people that go to the game would never back Lennon again in mass numbers. That's just my opinion. After the failure season of the 10, I don't think that it would be correct to bring him back. As for Scott Brown is not ready to be the Celtic manager, but Neil Lennon was a player, was went from player to player management when he became Celtic manager. So you've got to say, no, it doesn't. If Scott Brown is going to be Celtic manager, is going to go out and get experience, or is he going to go down the road that Lenny went? But I think it's different times. It's different from when Neil Lennon was made manager over 10 years ago now. Um, I think it's different times, and the game is completely different. Also, the game is completely different. A lot of money has been placed on Lennon. Not a chance. Seriously, is that right? A lot of money has been placed on Neil Lennon for the Republic of Ireland job. Wow. Smell the Glove says that Joseph just give him the fear by saying that Neil Lennon. Tell me in the comments. Tell me in the comments. Yes or no? Would you accept Lennon back? What are we talking about that for anyway? The current manager is the current manager's here for another 2 seasons after this one. So we've got another 2 full seasons of the Brendan years. And Brendan will not leave before the end of this contract. If you're going to put any money on anything, put money on Brendan Rodgers not leaving Celtic before the end of his contract, unless we have an absolute dire time in Europe and then the board going, "No, look, it's just not working in Europe." Then they'd have to pay him off the last year of his contract, but I can't see that happening. Like Lennon, good Celtic, but never manager again. Sorry, says Chill Pill. Brother Beaton should never be allowed to referee again. Do you know the worst thing is having a referee that has been pictured in a Rangers pub. In no other country in the world would that get to be allowed. It would never be a thing. The fact that there's so many referees that openly support Rangers, openly have been in Rangers supporters clubs, openly in the lodge, and it's just, the Scottish game just needs a shake up. It needs a complete shake up. And VAR is just a complete joke. Lorna says, "Love Lenny, wouldn't have him back as a manager." Helen says, "No chance. No chance. Will Lenny be back?" James Dillon says, SFA equal Mason's yet to do that. And there's a new commenter. I think that's the first time comment on the channel. EK Revolver. Lennon had a mostly good run at the. Yeah, he did have a good run at the job, but yes, it is time to move on. I think that would be a step backwards in the wrong direction. It would be like going backwards in time, and I don't think someone someone dressed as a giant poppy at the weekend. Dear. If you go to games, you'll know what that's all about. Anyway, he's one of them. The whole world knows it. Yeah, the whole world does know it. He is a Rangers fan through and through. But it is what it is. We just need to deal with it in Scotland. And if we let it get to us, there's no point in even worrying about it anymore. No point in even worrying about it at all. Paul Baird says Lennon was a great manager as Celtic, but he'll never be back as manager. No, I don't think he'll ever be back as manager. It was just a question that someone put out. Who was it? It was Joseph. Joseph put out. Name and shame you, Joseph. Joseph put out. Do you think Lennon or Brown will be our next manager? I think if it was going to be anyone, it would definitely not be Lennon. Will Brown ever be a Celtic manager? I think deep down in my heart, I don't think he will be. I don't think he'll ever manage Celtic. I think he's going to be a bit like Paul Lambert. He'll leave all his good memories at Celtic, and he knows how difficult it can be to manage Celtic. I mean, he's never said anything in public. He did say that he wants to go out. He was asked about would he come back and work with Brendan Rodgers and the backroom staff, and he said no, that he'd like to go out and make it on his own rather than come in and sort of learn under Brendan Rodgers. I think there's only so much that you can, after being a player and being so close to Brendan Rodgers as he was as captain for those years. I think there's only so much that he would learn. I think he would learn more as a manager by going out and doing it himself. Brownie for St Johnstone, not a chance. I don't think Brownie would go down that route. I don't think he'd go down that route at all. The way that they fire the managers about every year. I think Kennedy, John Kennedy for our next manager says, Graham, why we're not conversation about our next manager? We've got a manager that's going to be here for 2.5 seasons yet, and we've got trebles to win and things. So was Kenny Dalglish. Yep, Kenny Dalglish. I've got a fire stick now on order. Throw me what's the yeah, that's great. They've got a fire stick. James, I'm worried, John. Why did the Rangers take long to go? I'm not supporting the Army. Should have done that at 2:30. Yep, they should have done it at 2:30. Hearts game would have been won. Yeah, I know. It was where did the 9 minutes extra time? Where did the 9 minutes of extra time? Right, how many thumbs up do we have on the video? There's only 29 thumbs up, and there's quite a few people watching. Make sure that you hit that thumbs up. Anyway, what time is it? We've been on for 41 minutes already. Been on for 41 minutes. Right, let's time to concentrate on Brendan Rodgers. Time to concentrate on players that can replace Rio Hatate. I mean, obviously, the big one for me is Tomoki Iwata. Paolo Bernardo's been given his chance, but the Japanese midfield player, for me, is a perfect replacement for Reo Hatate. Although he's more a defensive midfield player, that would allow Callum McGregor to play into the role that we've been more used to Callum McGregor playing in the last couple of years. If we bring on a defensive midfield player, the way that Iwata is, you've got to remember that Paolo Bernardo can always he can play in that position also. So Paolo's obviously showed something in training that's allowed him to play that position further forward. Another player that could replace Rio Hatate is David Turnbull, but everyone's saying, look, Rio Hatate, David Turnbull is never going to be out of Rio Hatate. He slows the game down far too much. Brendan Rodgers said today on the interview that was put up on Celtic TV, he said, Odin is back in training. The 20-year-old is back in training. His last cameo was a 3-1 win at Celtic Park against Kilmarnock. And then he played in the Champions League and he was sent off in the Champions League. And then there's Marco Tillo. Baz, give us that extra 9 minutes. Jesus. He's want blood tonight. Stuart Ramsey. Go. Sports. Brendan came in to think about the way he left. Just think that we're going to go on a run like we did before. It's not even time to do that. Let's get the third out of the way and the fourth and the fifth. And then once we get to the fifth, it's then we could start thinking about getting to another 9 in a row because I think it's only then that's right. Plenty of time, Baz. Stop looking at the clock. My throat is killing me tonight. Um, Brown Warrior. Let me get your comment. Brown Warrior switched to a double pivot. Allowed McGregor to control the tempo from deep and get extra cover defensively. Do we really need the extra cover defensively? Do you think that in Scotland, especially, we should just play with a three at the back? Because playing with a four at the back is not really needed. Ange Postecoglou realised that you don't really need a three at the back, although he's played this way all his career, seemingly. But you can have the two central defenders covering enough of the back, and then your inverted fullbacks, as they were called under Ange, coming in midfield. If you go for a three, that allows you to move someone into midfield, which kind of gives us more options in midfield. The problem we've got in Scotland, as we all know, is that teams tend to sit back against Celtic at Celtic Park. They'll sit back. They'll sit back in two banks, well, a bank of four and a bank of five. And that's hard to break down. I mean, if you played football at any level, that's why Celtic have tried to make the game faster. Celtic need to get off to the really good fast start. And when they don't get off to a fast start, even Brendan Rodgers said at the weekend, we didn't start fast enough. Our play was passive. Our play was too slow. That allowed them to get back and allowed them to sort of get in position. And then we struggle. We struggle to break teams down like that. Let's get Kaiser back on. When Iwata plays, he can drop into centre defence, play centre defensive mid, and play a 3-5 in possession. Let's Calmac push forward and a more attacking option. Turnbull will leave. Paul Baird says Turnbull will leave Celtic in the transfer window in January or the summer. Obviously, Paul, because he's out of contract in the summer. So for me, I would prefer Celtic to try and get some money in for him and sell him on. I'll be perfectly honest, it's like if you can get 500 grand for David Turnbull, sell him on. If he wants to go down south, tell him to go and find a club and tell him to pay 500 grand and they can have him on the 1st of January, as far as I'm concerned. You know, we're sitting far too big a squad as it is. Um, and something has to happen because we're all talking about bringing other players into the team, players that we need to bring in. We're talking about we still need a goalkeeper, we still need a left back, and we still need a striker. We're currently sitting with 3 goalkeepers, so we need to get rid of a goalkeeper as well. So, I mean, we're gonna sit with 4 goalkeepers, that's a certainty, and there's no way we're gonna get rid of our Scottish goalkeeper, so it leaves only 1 goalkeeper to get rid of. The other one's out of contract. It could be the case that next summer, if the talks aren't concluded with Joe Hart to Celtic's advantage, it might be the case that Celtic might have to get 2 decent goalkeepers in next summer. You know, if we've got to get someone to come in and place, because I don't think that Benjamin Siegrist, Benjamin Siegrist is going to do anything at Celtic. He's going to be a player that's going to play something like 5 or 6 games. How many games has he played? Stuart Ramsey says he's not hitting the panic button yet. 100% Baz. Yep. I mean, it's true. But that's the players that we need. Who do we drop out? We've got too big a squad. Before COVID shut down, do we not have 3 at the back and 2 up front? No, I don't think so. Under Lennon, I don't think so. I don't think we played 3 at the back then and 2 up front. Can't remember. I went to games at that time, and I can't remember us playing 3 at the back. Paul, can you remember? Did we play 3 at the back just before lockdown? Hmm. We should re-sign Turnbull. Oh, this is controversial. We're going to end the video in the last 10 minutes of the video. We're going to be really controversial. Kaiser says we should re-sign Turnbull on a 3-year deal and then sell him so we could recoup some of the cash for him. Or play him as a false 9 behind the strikers. Definitely as part as a 5-man midfield. Would you give him a better wage deal? Because let's face it, he's only going to sign a new contract at Celtic if he's going to get more money. You've been drinking, guys. Calmac was given a free pass by from Palma. Palma and Calmac. Shot. Let's talk about Callum McGregor. Let's talk about Callum McGregor. Is Callum McGregor off the boil at the moment? Is Callum McGregor off the boil? He's definitely not hitting the heights that he has the last couple of seasons. Something's missing about Callum McGregor just now. Smelly Gloves just said we played a 3-5-2 under Lenny before lockdown. Griffiths and French Eddie in a few games. Oh, there you go. There you go. I must have been. I wouldn't have been drunk at the games because I wasn't drinking at the games at that time. Yeah, there you go. And get rid of Turnbull as soon as possible. Calmac needs a rest. Calmac needs a rest. I think that there's something just not clicking with Callum McGregor just now. You've got to remember he's got wealth of experience, and he knows that this team is a young team. And it's hard for Callum McGregor to be Celtic captain right now. It's such a pivotal time in his career. You know, I mean, he's at a time in his career, but let's face it, he could walk down into the English Premiership, and he could walk into a top 5 club easily. Easily, he could walk into a top 8 club in the English Premiership just like that. Calmac could definitely do that, but I think he's struggling this year because he knows that this team has little experience, and I think he's trying to focus on the players and trying to get them in position more. I don't know. I tell people that go to the games, tell me, are you seeing Calmac talking to the players a lot more at games, or is he kind of went into his shell a bit? Interesting one. Calmac has been asked to play the role that it doesn't suit him. Yep. Yeah, that's what I think. Calmac has definitely had a dip in form. Yep, Calmac needs a rest. No, Calmac being asked to play the role doesn't suit him. Yep. I knew I wasn't imagining that. I don't know. Calmac just isn't it just now. I mean, yep. If O got to play for every game, whatever other club up front against them, I think we might get one goal. It's Ceylon. Yeah, it's Ceylon. Interesting comments from after 10 games, we are 5 points ahead. Okay, Saturday was bad too. I'm happy with the start. Yeah, I'm happy with when you look at it, let's look at the positives. Look at the amount of away games that we've had at the start of this season. We're now going to a run. Out of the next 9 league games, 6 of our next 9 league games are at home. Will we now go on a run that'll put us further in front? It will put us that little bit further in front. Remember that we do have the Sevconians to come up. I think, to be fair, we're going to smash them off the park. I don't see anything in their team giving them a new manager. It does not bring anything to the table at all, as far as I'm concerned. They didn't do anything against Hearts. They got 2 penalty, well, in my mind, 2 dubious penalty decisions. The fact that the VAR didn't show the full picture. I think the way that the games are now going out, Celtic should now go on a run and get some good points and good goal scoring, high scoring games that will get the fans to calm down a bit. I think because we've got all these games at home, it will get the team into a little bit of rhythm. And as long as the fans don't get on the players' back, as long as the fans sort of know that teams are going to sit back, it is cold winter nights and cold winter days, and it's going to be difficult to watch sometimes. It's going to be difficult to watch, but I think it will be our turn to go on a little bit of a better run goal scoring wise. Let's face it, we've only drawn 2 games this season. So the amount of away games that we've had this season, we started being 5 points in front. It's a good start to the season, if you ask me. Kaiser says, Tamak says, we need the ball on Wednesday night. Sentman are in good form. Yeah, they are in good form. They have only drawn a game recently. Or did they draw or they lose? No, they lost a game because that's how they went. Um, That's how they allowed Sevco to jump above them by 3 points. It's just and this loading, and so St Mirren are sitting on 18 points. Oh, 4 loss, yeah, they've drawn 1 and lost 1 at home. Away, they've won 2 and they've drawn 2, goals for 6. So they're not letting away from home goals against 4. They've only had 4 goals go against them away from home. So they are playing tight at the back. They're getting more draws and 2 wins, 2 draws. It's going to be a difficult game. Yeah, do you know that they're on a bit of form? They did score. What was it? They scored. What was their score at the weekend? They not score 4 goals or something. 28 stars. Come on. Say they beat St Johnstone 4-0, which cost St Johnstone their manager, did it not? St Johnstone looking for a manager. So when you look at it, a few yellow cards in there as well, but they scored their first goal in 36 minutes, and then 48 minutes, and 70 minutes, and then 90 scored the goal in the 90th minute also. They're a team that've got goals in them, but are we really gonna be that scared of them? I think Celtic will win that game quite easily. We always like midweek games at Celtic Park are sometimes high scoring games. Could be the fact that this could be the game that we put them in their place and we say, "Look, it'll be really interesting." It'll be one that we hope that we win anyway. We need to win all our games at home and away. Sparklove says, out of the next 2 league games, get out of the way, and then it'll be 7 games out of 12 completed. A lot of home games to come. And there is a lot of home games. And out of the next 9 games, there's 6 home games. 6 home games, which is good. It is always good. Right. It is 54 minutes out there. People are kind of dropping off the video. There is only, it can't be only 29 thumbs up. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Joseph has just come back with a big comment. We'll read this one out. Haley Baz just to say, blames his tool to improvise. Yep. So why is Brendan Rodgers rolling? I don't think he's moaning at all. Might be the Messiah. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is moaning at all. I think we're just concerned about the amount of away games that we've had. And if anything, Brendan Rodgers, what he did talk about in his press conference today, he was talking about Odin and Paulo Bernardo just being potentials, just being potential players with potential. So that says oh, that gives you the mindset that I'm thinking is currently going on behind Brendan Rodgers. The fact that we do have so many players that are just potentials coming into Celtic, and he has to make them better, whilst at the same time keep on winning the league. Could you imagine if Ronnie Deila had so much potential players? We would never have won anything during the time that Ronnie Deila was there. Anyway, that's enough for tonight. Sure. Big thumbs up to everybody. I'm actually not that confident. I'm not going to end it on that, child. Paul. Come on. Jesus. Paul Baird says we're lucky to get a draw at St. Mirren at home last season. And then we've just got a super chat just to keep going that a little bit longer. Dylan has said, is that Canadian dollars? Canadian dollars? I'm not sure what that is. Sent a super sticker of Canadian. I think it's Canadian. Is it Canadian or I'm not sure what that is. Dollars anyway. Thank you very much for that. Teeling. Mac, you're getting the final comment. Hail, hail. Everyone, have a fantastic evening. We'll be around with some Celtic news tomorrow morning. The live chats from now on will be at this time, just because there's more people. The stats are showing me that the 5 o'clock time isn't obviously working for everyone, and that we're getting a lot more interaction, a lot more people coming on the chat when it is later on. My no name is beaten. You're getting that last one. You're getting that last chat. But the big shout out has to go to Teelan. Thank you to everyone who commented. Thank you to everyone who gave a thumbs up. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans.